The forgotten trailhead in Utah breathes like a living thing, and those who enter never leave the same. You're listening to ASMR 404Found. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Do you ever hear about a trailhead that breathes? It sounds crazy. But if you hike long enough, especially in the backcountry ranges, nobody dares mark with official signage anymore. You'll hear stories, not from locals, most of them won't say a damn thing, but from maps that were redacted, from trip reports that vanished, and from hikers who didn't come back, except in pieces. I used to be a park ranger in Utah, 10 years. I worked the high elevation zone between Bryce Canyon and Zion, a region people usually call Echo Ridge, though that's not any official term, not on paper anyway. But back in 2018, before I quit everything and swore off wilderness for good, I saw something, felt something, and I lost for people, a whole hiking group. 3 tourists and a volunteer named Eli. None of them were ever recovered, and I believe I know why. We were near what old maps label as Devil's Gate Trailheader, barely marked. No moved access point to Echo Ridge, hidden by dry brush and a collapsing wooden sign covered in owl droppings. The last time it was considered active was sometime in the 1960s. The trail doesn't appear on any hiking app. The Forest Service officially decommissioned it, but it's still there, and something's still inside it. It started with a call to dispatch. A group of backpackers, 2 sisters, a guy named Ben, and their guide Eli had gone radio silent on day 2 of their scheduled hike. Not a panic situation, but enough to raise eyebrows. The last check-in had come from a sat phone near Devil's Gate. Then, nothing. No GPS pings, no SOS calls. I was told to investigate alone. I had experience in this zone and had been down to Devil's Gate once before, years prior. The area gives off a strange quiet, even in daylight. You know how the desert sometimes feels. To still, this was worse. Like the land was listening to you. I hiked in at 5 a.m. and planned to reach their intended campsite by sundown. My pack was light, just water, flare, medical kit, and a service pistol standard for rescues. I didn't expect to need it. I kept repeating that to myself. When I passed through the narrow gap between 2 massive stone arches that marked the beginning of Devil's Gate, I felt it like stepping through a pressure seam in the air. My ears popped. The sky didn't change, but it looked ... duller, less alive. The first mile of the trail narrowed fast. Thick pines on either side, but twisted, like they grew under tension. No wildlife sounds. Even the wind moved differently. You know how branches usually sway with a breeze. Here they twitched, like something tugged them from above. Then came the first sign. A torn backpack hanging from a dead juniper. Strapped to it was a GoPro. The lens was cracked, but the device itself was still warm. I sat down against a stone ledge and pressed play. The footage started with Eli, the guide, filming himself. He looked nervous, more than nervous. Like he was forcing himself to keep calm. He whispered into the camera, "This trailhead ain't what I thought. The map's wrong. The trees moved last night. I don't mean I heard branches. I mean the path was different in the morning. I backtracked to where we pitched the tent, but it was gone. The girls, they said they saw someone watching them from the ridge, but there's no one out here. No one should be." The camera shook. A gust of wind rattled through the pines. Then darkness when the video cut back in. It was clearly hours later. Eli screamed. The image shook violently, falling sideways. A shape ran past the lens bare feet, pale and long, almost spider-like. The camera was dropped, left at a skewed angle, showing only treetops. But a voice came through. It wasn't Eli. It wasn't human. It said, "You came through the wrong door." And then, ... silence. I sat there for a long time. Something about that voice felt like it had been spoken directly into my ear, though I had headphones in. I should have turned back then, but I didn't. I pressed deeper into Devil's Gate, and things got worse. I kept moving deeper into Devil's Gate. The sun was still up, but the light didn't follow me past mile 2. It was like the trail ate it. You could look up and still see a blue sky through the pine needles, yet everything around you dimmed, like dusk had fallen just for this place. The trail bent unnaturally, taking me west instead of north. Every now and then I'd spot something out of place, like a stone stacked atop a tree stump, or a pine cone cut in half, perfectly hollowed out, man-made, intentional, maybe a warning. And then I found the first boot. It was upright, toe pointing ahead on the path. No blood, no tracks. But inside it was a foot, still wearing a sock. No bones sticking out, like it had been cleanly unzipped from the leg. I vomited. My stomach was already tight with dread, but seeing that clean, surgical, inhuman, it broke something in me. The strange thing, the boot wasn't weathered, not even dirty. It looked like it had just been set down, still warm to the touch. I radioed dispatch, but the static was so thick it sounded like someone exhaling underwater. Then a voice cut through, brief, whispery, distorted. It said, "You're too close." I didn't press the call button again. A few minutes later, I found what looked like their old campsite, though it had been torn apart. Not by animals there. Were no claw marks, no bite signs. It looked peeled, like the tent had been unraveled. The fire pit was still smoking, but the wood inside wasn't burning. The heat was coming from beneath the dirt, like the earth itself was exhaling warmth. Around the fire pit were dozens of drawings scratched into the soil. Circles, symbols, a few words written in shaky capital letters. One that caught my eye read, "The door that breathes." I took photos. My hands were trembling so badly I had to kneel just to focus the lens. My instincts were screaming at me to leave, but I kept going. About half a mile further in, the landscape changed. The trees thinned, and the dirt trail gave way to shale and dry grass. I saw formations that didn't belong, rocks arranged in spirals, bones tied together with what looked like human hair. There was something in the distance. A tall black structure, almost like a monolith, standing crooked on a ridge. It wasn't on any map, wasn't a natural feature. I decided to get closer. As I climbed the ridge, I began hearing it, a low hum, like the sound of wind passing through polo stone, but rhythmic, pulsing. It made my teeth ache, like it was vibrating through my bones. The structure was smoother up close, not stone. It looked like obsidian, but it felt soft, like skin pulled tight. There were small holes along the surface, evenly spaced, like gills. It was breathing. I reached out and placed my hand on it. A terrible mistake. The second I made contact, everything went silent. Not just around me, inside me. I couldn't hear my own heartbeat. No birds, no wind. Just a cold blankness that settled in my chest. And then it opened. The surface of the monolith split, slowly, like a mouth yawning after a long sleep. Inside, there was no darkness. There was movement. Dozens of pale limbs, some human, some not, twitching in unnatural rhythm. And eyes, so many eyes, all blinking out of sync, watching me with a hunger that wasn't just physical. It was ancient. I ran. I don't remember the descent. I remember falling, crashing through bushes, tearing my jacket on branches. My legs were bleeding, but I didn't stop until I collapsed by a dried-up creek bed that looked familiar. I must have passed out when I came to. It was night, and I wasn't alone. There were footprints around me, barefoot, long toes. The kind of prints that didn't seem to press into the dirt, but float above it, like they were made by something not fully here. I pulled out my flashlight and swept it across the creek bed. That's when I saw the girl. It was the older sister from the group. Her name was Miranda. She was naked, standing at the edge of the tree line, arms limp at her sides. Her face was wrong, off-center. Her mouth was stretched too wide, and her eyes didn't blink at the same time. But it was her. "Help me," she said. I stepped forward. "Please, help me." That's when I saw it. Her shadow wasn't connected to her feet. It moved separately, like a second person, standing just behind her, mimicking every motion a second too late. Her arms dropped. The shadow didn't it, raised its own arms, and they were long. I stepped back. She followed. The shadow stayed still. Her mouth widened into a grin that split her cheeks. Her voice dropped low, almost childlike. "You shouldn't have touched the door." I turned and ran again. This time I ran until the sun started rising. By the time I saw the old ranger station, my lips were cracked from dehydration, and every bone in my feet felt disjointed. It was barely standing an old emergency shelter built in the 60s, maybe earlier. The roof sagged. One of the shutters was broken clean off, but it was shelter. I pushed through the crooked door and fell against the inside wall. The air smelled like mildew and iron. There were scratch marks on the floorboards. Deep grooves clawed into the wood. I could see something written on the far wall in what looked like dried blood. "Don't let them smile." I barely registered it. My vision pulsed. My ears were ringing again. My brain felt like it was 2 inches too big for my skull. Then I heard humming, a child's voice, soft, melodic, coming from the crawl space beneath the floor. I pulled my flashlight. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold it. The beam lit a small square cut into the floorboards with a rusted handle. The hatch was already open. The humming stopped. I crouched down and pointed the light. Inside, there was a girl down there, not Miranda. This one was younger, blonde, wearing a ranger uniform, though it looked decades old. Faded patch on the shoulder, said McKenna. Her eyes were glassy. Her mouth hung slack. She said, "Don't smile at it." I said nothing. I just stared, unsure if I was hallucinating. She whispered again, voice trembling. "If you smile, it gets inside. That's how it learns you." Then her face twisted. Her mouth opened in an unnatural grin, stretching until the corners tore. Blood trickled down her cheeks. "I tried not to," she said, sobbing between gasps. I tried not to smile back, and then she screamed. Not from her mouth, but from every wall in the shelter. The sound seemed to come from the wood itself. I slammed the hatch shut. Outside, something heavy moved through the trees. Not walking, dragging, like bones wrapped in canvas, sliding through pine needles. I backed away from the window and turned, past the flashlight. I didn't breathe. It passed within inches of the cabin. Whatever it was, it wasn't on 2 legs. It scraped its way forward. Every few seconds, I'd hear a faint clicking sound, almost like a camera shutter. I stayed there until night fell again. That second night is when I heard the others' voices outside. Somewhere deeper in the woods, Eli's voice, calling for help. Ben's voice, Miranda, too. All of them dash begging. I knew better. I knew they were dead. But that's how it gets you. It learns your voice. It learns how to sound like you. You see, I've read about this place. After I escaped, I spent years piecing together the lore. Old texts, blacklisted maps, decommissioned trail logs. Devil's Gate isn't just a forgotten path. It's a breathing doorway. The land is alive, but not in the way we understand. It's not a forest spirit, not a god. It's a consciousness that lives between our world and whatever came before. And it eats hikers, not just their bodies, their selves, their identities, their patterns, their memories. That's why some who come back aren't really bad. Why they smile at the wrong times, blink with a delay, laugh without breath. The next morning, I finally ran again. No food, no water, no trail. I just kept heading toward the faintest glow I could find in the sky. It took me nearly 2 days to get out. When I stumbled into the ranger station near Red Hollow, I was nearly incoherent. They called it heat stroke, trauma, delirium, but they didn't go looking for the others, because the Forest Service knew. The Devil's Gate Trailhead has been off limits since 1967, after a church group vanished there. But they covered it up. claimed it was AROCKSLIDE. It wasn't. And I think they knew that I left the Rangers not long after. I tried to live normal, took a job working dispatch in Arizona, started sleeping with the lights on, didn't hike, camp, didn't go near trees, but something followed me. One night, I found a pine cone on my pillow, hollowed out, perfectly halved. Last week, I woke up to find footprints in my carpet, long toes, no heel. And tonight, as I was recording this for you, the lights flickered. My dog wouldn't come near the hallway, and I swear, heard my own voice calling from outside the window. But I live on the 14th floor. If you find this, do not go looking. Don't search for the Devil's Gate Trailhead. And if you ever hear someone you know calling from the forest, don't smile, don't answer, and for the love of God, don't step through. They say no one hikes Crimson Fog Trail anymore. Not because it's closed, not because of bears or fires or snowdrifts, not even because of disappearances. They don't hike it because those who come back aren't right. They don't scream or cry. They don't say much at all. They just sit blank-faced and slow-moving, as if something inside them never made it out of the forest. And I guess now I know why. I wasn't supposed to be there. My group had a permit for another trail out past McCall, Idaho. But a mudslide blocked the road, so we rerouted. My buddy Kyle pulled out a faded map, pointed to a place near the Sawtooths with a name scratched in red ink, Crimson Fog Trailhead. I'd never heard of it. Neither had anyone else. But the trail marker was real. The GPS showed a narrow path heading west, and we were already behind schedule. So we went. 5 of us, me, Kyle, Nina, Barrett, and Lena. We were all friends from college. Backpackers, mostly. We did this every summer pick. A new state, new route, unplug for a week. The gear was dialed in. The packs were tight. We were ready. But that trailhead wasn't. It wasn't ready for us. And we weren't ready for it. We parked off a gravel turnout. No signs, no warnings. Just a weathered wooden post, with crimson fog etched deep into it, as if scratched by nails. Instead of tools, the forest around it was thick, quiet, still, not peaceful more. Like watching the kind of silence that presses against your ears like pressure underwater. We signed our names into a damp trail log nailed to the post. I remember Kyle laughing about it. Hasn't been signed in years, he said. Look at this. Last name was 2009. I looked. He was right. A name, then nothing. For over a decade, and we signed our names anyway. The first day was normal. Trees were dense, pines mostly, some fir. Sunlight barely reached the ground. Everything smelled like cold dirt and wet moss. We hiked maybe 7 miles in, set up camp near a creek, built a fire, and played cards. That night, the fog rolled in. Not like morning mist or mountain cloud drift. It was thick, colored red dotted, clung to the trees like spider silk, and pulsed faintly, as if lit from within. Barrett joked that it looked like the forest was bleeding, but the rest of us didn't laugh. It didn't look natural. It looked alive. I woke up at 3:06 a.m. to the sound of water splashing. I unzipped my tent and saw Barrett standing ankle-deep in the creek, staring upstream. They called his name. He didn't answer, just stood there. Still, I got up and walked to him. His eyes were glassy, pupils huge. When I touched his shoulder, he blinked hard and gasped like he'd been underwater. "I didn't go in," he said. "I didn't walk out here." But his boots were soaked. We didn't sleep much after that. Day 2, the fog never lifted. It hovered low, just above eye level, like it was waiting. The air felt heavier. Sounds got swallowed faster. Nina kept looking behind her, saying it felt like someone was following. We heard knocks, always 3 low, hollow, distant. No birds, no wind, just the sound of our breath and those knocks every few minutes. Kyle went missing at mile 15. We had stopped for lunch, 5 packs down, 5 people sitting. I turned to say something about rationing the jerky. 4 people sitting. Kyle's pack still there. No footsteps leading away, just drag marks into the fog. We spent hours shouting no. Echo, like the air itself, refused to carry our voices. Nina was crying. Lena started repeating Kyle's name in a whisper, and then her nose started bleeding. Not a drip, a stream, dark, thick. She collapsed 5 minutes later. We carried her back to the last campsite. Barrett built another fire. The fog didn't part. It moved like it was alive, curling and shifting just beyond the flame. That night, we heard Kyle. He called from the woods, said he was lost, said he needed help. But his voice was wrong. It was stretched, warped, like it was passing through something. Too tight. Nina almost ran into the trees. I had to grab her. She screamed that he sounded scared. I said no. He sounded hungry. She didn't believe me. We made a plan to leave at dawn, retrace our steps, forget the trailhead, forget everything. But the forest didn't want us to leave, because by morning the trail was gone, replaced by more trees, more fog, and Kyle was standing in the distance, naked, covered in what looked like red moss. He was smiling, but not with his eyes. We didn't move for a long time. The figure standing in the fog was definitely Kyle. Same height, same build, same posture. But the way he stood it wasn't right. His hands dangled like dead weight. His spine didn't sway with breath, and his smile was too wide, stretched to the corners in a way that felt practiced. Nina whispered his name again. I put my hand out to stop her. That's not him. Barrett stepped forward, but I grabbed his jacket. Don't. Just don't. Kyle tilted his head, and then his mouth opened, not to speak, to scream. The sound was broken, shattered, like metal scraping inside a wind tunnel. The trees around us shook. Lena covered her ears and dropped to her knees. The moss under her cracked. When I looked again, Kyle was gone. The fog pulsed. The red got deeper, thicker, more like blood. We packed what we could and left camp behind, moving fast, no trail to follow. just a compass and instinct. The GPS units we brought all blinked the same thing. No freaks. The woods began to repeat. We passed by the same hollow tree twice, same rock formation 3 times. The fog moved with us, always staying just behind, just close enough to hear what sounded like breath in the trees. Then Lena stopped walking. "I see the trail," she said. We all turned. There was nothing there, just fog. She dropped her pack and smiled, like Kyle. Barrett tried to hold her back, but she was too fast. She slipped into the fog like water, gone. We camped that night without fire. Barrett muttered something about smoke pulling them closer. I sat up all night, knife in hand, at 2 a.m. Lena's voice returned. She sang a song her mother used to sing. The words came from every direction, soft, beautiful, and hollow. Barrett covered his ears and wept. Nina didn't speak at all. The fog stayed. It never left. After that night, the next day we found a clearing. Massive trees formed a perfect circle. In the center stood a totem, made of bones. Some animal, some not, tied together with red string and moss. Dangling teeth, charred feathers, clumps of human hair etched on the wood below it. "Leave one to walk out." We didn't speak for a while, just stood and read the words, again and again. "Leave one to walk out. 1, not 3. Barrett broke first. He picked up a rock and looked at me, not with hate, with understanding. Survival. But before he could move, Nina stepped forward. She walked to the center of the circle, dropped her backpack, sat down, and said, "Go." Barrett refused, said we'd carry her out, said it wasn't real, said we couldn't trust it. Nina smiled at us. "Soft, gentle," she said. "He's still in there. I saw him. He's screaming. He can't get out. But if one of us stays, maybe it lets the others go." Then her eyes rolled back. She fell to her side. Blood came from her mouth. A red mist rose around her body like steam. I dragged Barrett away. I don't even remember walking. Just darkness, fog, silence. Then sunlight. We stumbled out near a fire road. 3 days later, both of us were nearly dead. They flew us out by helicopter, said we had been missing for 2 weeks. Barrett didn't speak again. He lives in a long-term care home now. Sometimes he draws. Always the same thing. A traila, red fog, a smile. I went back once. Not far, just to the trailhead. It looked different. The name on the wood was burned out, like someone tried to erase it. But in the dirt at the base of the post, there was a small stone, flat, smooth, clean. Someone had carved words into it, words that weren't there before. "You walked out, but you never left." The fog still shows up in my dreams, thick, breathing, and every now and then I hear her voice again, singing that same soft song, calling me back. You'd think surviving something like that would come with a sense of clarity, a drive to heal. Maybe a book deal. It didn. Single quotes. After Crimson Fog, everything felt less real. Food lost its taste. Time blurred. I'd find myself staring at walls for hours, waiting to hear Nina's voice again. And sometimes I did. Not in dreams, not in hallucinations. In the mirror, in the static hum of the fridge at night. In the shower drain when the water spun to slow. I knew then it had followed me back. Not all of it, just a part, just enough. 2 months after I got out, I started digging into the trail's history. Local archives, state forestry records, online forums so deep I had to use burner accounts to even stay in them. That Trailhead Crimson Fog was never officially listed. No permits, no blazes, no name in the national park logs, but it existed. I found mentions as early as 1887. Miners called it the Red Ghost Hollow. Trappers said fog would roll in red and thick, and animals would freeze in place. They spoke of whispers coming from tree knots, and bones hanging in the air like fruit. One old diary described a man who wandered in looking for his missing wife. He came out alone, skin white as milk, eyes weeping blood. He was recorded muttering the same thing. She became fog. She became fog. I found photos. 2.1 was the oldest, a black and white image of a trail post. The words Crimson Fog etched roughly in the wood. A shape stood just behind it, too blurry to make out. Not a hiker, not an animal. Too tall, too bent. Another photo was from 2006. A ranger station interior. A wall map had the trail circled in red, with the words, "Do not mark, keep off map." There was a name under the warning, R.L. Draper. I tracked him down. Retired, living in Montana. He picked up the phone after the 4th call and didn't even let me finish introducing myself. He said, "You went in, didn't you?" I asked him. How he knew, he replied, "Because the fog doesn't call unless it wants something." I flew out to see him, met him at a diner just off the highway. He walked with a limp and had burned scars up his arms. I didn't ask. He didn't offer. He laid a folded napkin on the table and said, "Before we talk, I need you to read this." I unfolded it. It read, "Do not follow voices. Do not bleed into the ground. Do not drink the rain." I looked up. He said, "Those are the rules. They change, but those are the oldest ones." I asked what it wanted. He shook his head. "It's not about want. It's about hunger. Trails aren't just paths. Some of them are mouths. Some are wounds. That one's both." I asked why it shows fog. He looked me in the eye and said, "That's not fog." He told me a story. Said in 1979, 3 rangers went missing off an unmarked trail in the Idaho wilderness. He was part of the search team. Found their packs, their boots, and in the center of the campsite, something else. A baby deer, alive, blinking. But when they got close, the deer started whispering. A ranger panicked and shot it. It didn't bleed. It leaked fog, red fog, red fog. And from the tree line they heard something scream, not in pain, in anger. Draper was never the same after that. He said the forest had rules, and that trail broke all of them. No seasons, no animal cycles, no decay. He called it a closed system. Whatever entered became part of it, or didn't come out at all. He gave me one last piece of advice. When it calls again, you won't get to choose. Your boots will start walking on their own. And when you turn around, the trailhead will already be behind you. I thanked him. He didn't smile. He just said, "Don't let the fog touch your skin next time." That's how it learns you. 3 nights after I returned, it started again. My apartment filled with red mist from the AC vents. My walls bled tree bark, and in my fridge, I found Barrett's journal, the one he kept during our hikes. I never took it from him, but there it was, soaked in moss, open to a page I hadn't seen before. It read, "You left Nina behind. That was the price, but it wasn't enough. You still owe." I called his care facility. He was gone. Wandered off the property. Barefoot security footage showed him walking into the woods behind the building. No expression, just a faint smile. The same one Kyle wore in the fog. I packed everything that night. Gear, supplies, rope, GP7. Though I knew it wouldn't work, and I drove. Didn't matter where, it would find me anyway. I ended up outside McCall again. The forest looked different, now older. I walked until I saw it. The post-crimson fog, back like it never left, freshly carved, waiting. I entered. The red mist welcomed me. This time, I didn't fight it. I followed the voices. They led me to a tree I recognized, the one Barrett carved his initials into. Only now it held more than carvings. It held faces pressed into the bark, like fossilized screams. Nina, Kyle, Lena, Kyle, Lena, even mine. But my mouth was open, still breathing, still moving. I don't know how long. I've been here now. Time doesn't work inside the fog. The moss has started growing on my skin. I don't feel cold anymore. I don't feel much of anything, but I see more clearly now. The fog is memory. It's made of everyone who ever entered. Every voice, every cry, every final breath. Crimson fog isn't a trail, it's a tomb, and now I'm part of it. If you're reading this, I'm already gone. The plug let me send this out as bait. Because now it wants you to, and you'll come, won't you? You'll get curious. You'll search for that name online. You'll find the GPS coordinates someone leaked. You'll find photos of the moss and whispers in message boards no one moderates. You'll see the gatepost etched in red dots. And when you do, don't follow the fog. But you will anyway, because that's what it does. It calls, and it waits.